What's up, YouTube? We were talking and hanging out, and there's been a lot of discussion around the majors. For those that don't know, we finally have our 16 teams going to the fall split major. It's happened. 16 teams all qualified out, and it got me thinking, how good are these teams? I know it sounds silly, chat. I know it sounds really silly. We know obviously more about NA and EU, and I try to keep tabs on some of these other regions, but ultimately it doesn't really tell the whole story. I try to look at like game differential and stuff like that even when I do my other recap videos. And I figured in this video, I would like to kind of take some time with you guys to recap the path to the major. Each team, based upon the results and how they got there. Was it super consistent? Was it not? Did we see some polarizing results? Looking at you, Endpoint, where you either win or you don't make top. I don't get it. Either way, we're going to be taking a look at all these different regions. And obviously, APAC is a little bit unique because they had to play in a qualifier. So we'll talk about that as well. And then we're also going to take a look maybe at the Sub-Saharan region because they don't get to play in majors. They only can play in the wild card. So with that said, let's jump over to the teams that have made it. This is going to be the first time that we actually talk about this. And for those that don't know, these are your 16 teams that are going to the major. Energy, G2, FaZe, Envy, Complexity, Endpoint, Dig, BDS, Semper, Vitality, Ground Zero Gaming and Renegades coming from OCE, Furia, and Era coming from the SAM region. You then got Tokyo Verde, which is APAC qualifiers. Then you got Sandrock from MENA. So pretty crazy stuff. Those are our 16 teams. They will be going to the major, Sweden, Stockholm, in a couple weeks, actually, going to be happening, which is insane. On the other side of things, the thing I wanted to pay attention to is how those teams, whether it be the 5 from NAEU or whether it be the 2 from the other regions, how dominant they were in their performances. You can do this actually on Liquipedia if you actually just click each of the individual regions in the rankings. But this is what we got. So these are all the teams. These are the rankings. That's the seeding that they are for representation. But we're going to be focusing obviously on the top ones, and we're going to do that as an individual level. So for an NA as example, we've got our top 5. Complexity and above. And these are the results I'm looking at. These in particular and how they're associated. So things to pay attention to is top 8 is 150 points. 200 points is top 4, so 3-4. And then 250 is second, 301 is first. Below that, 110, I'm pretty sure, is 11th, like that 11 area. Top 11, where you're like, you go 2 and 3 in results, but don't make top 8. So you're just like barely there. Most of the teams in conversation should never fall below that. Like you're either barely just qualifying or not qualifying at an absolute worst. So first place, you look at Energy. They've got a second place finish, a first place finish, and then a 3-4. So Energy obviously showing us a staple of consistency. They are a lot of people's favorite choice to go and win the entire thing. And rightfully so, based upon the results. And you look at their players and LAN experience, all world champions, all that kind of stuff. Energy is obviously a fan favorite. They look pretty dang good. G2, ascending. They are continuously trending in a good direction. Top 8, top 2, they win. That's really good results and very scary results for their circumstance. So whatever it is they've been drinking, whatever they're sipping on over there, things are going in a good direction. So they are ascending. FaZe Clan obviously has some concern where they looked unstoppable. They coast. They don't make top 8. And then they come back and make top 4. As for Envy, pretty consistent. Natural progression. Natural results. Just not as drastic as G2. But as we know, it came down to literally one game. It was a 21 game series. And it was one of the best series we've ever seen between G2 and Envy. So again, this could be very similar actually to G2. It could be. They could have an additional, 51 points here, which would then put them in second. So again, some pretty crazy things. You then look at Complexity, and Complexity has been top 8. Top 8's been really good. If they make top 4, they're happy. So again, many people then look at Complexity and say, hey, they're clearly the weakest team going in. And I think that's the exciting thing about the way that Major has been done, right? Like you look at the major and everything seems to be based upon your seating over the grand scheme of things, kind of how you'd want to do power rankings as well. I think you make some conversations between like where Envy's placed and stuff, but overall you talk about the most recent team performing the better. It's pretty exciting stuff. Also, Mad Matt being a savage says, I would say SSG is the weakest team coming in. Oh, wait. You're mean. That's not nice. Kind of funny, but kind of mean. All right, let's take a look at Europe. Endpoint. 2 first-place victories and then a 11th place. So they didn't make top 8. They didn't make top 8. Dignitas, 2 top 4s and a win. BDS, which has been some interesting conversation. We'll be talking about that. Or we talked about BDS's situation in a video yesterday. For those that are watching this video live. About BDS's situation and Monkey Moon tweeting about communication. And hopefully they get kind of the ground rolling at the major. But for them, I think their biggest frustration is like they were so dominant. Now they're, you know, not the winning team. It's escaped them. It is pretty crazy to me, though, that only 2 teams in Europe, again, are winning the whole thing. Just like last season, BDS and Vitality pretty much won every single event. And then they would like sprinkle in a different team every so often. Maybe we'll see that same trend. Maybe we will see that exact same trend in Europe this year. If that happens again, that'd actually be crazy. But I did not expect to see the massive turnaround from Endpoint. Bootcamp buff showing up huge. 2 victories for Endpoint, relating Wave and Seiko playing out of their minds, and no joke with Metsonaris too. Just a lot of that pressure off of them, I think is... I love what Endpoint's doing. Dignitas is surprising to me. Obviously, these teams are really, really close in results, and I think that's telling because both of them have kind of gone through the same thing for me, where at times they both look excellent, and then at other times I'm like, they look kind of shaky. They still get wins, and that's all that matters. I think that's telling of a good team. A good team still gets wins, no matter what. But at times they look shaky. And that's where my concerns come in for the rest. Is what blows my mind is how you can look but still end up top 4, etc. And I don't know if that's due to just depth or inconsistency or what the reasoning is. It might be a mixture of both, but I do have concerns in Europe. As I look at the top teams in Europe based upon the results and who's making it. Like, Vitality is a prime example. They completely bombed and are still top 5. But then you look at North America and like, it's solidified. The teams at the top are at the top. Is that due to lack of depth in North America? Or is that otherwise? I don't know. This circumstance obviously played out really weird with Vitality needing EG to lose. But it goes to show that one event is not enough to knock you out. And I think that's why people should be afraid. I think any of us who have been watching Rocket League for a very long time know that Vitality is a very scary team on LAN. This is going to be the first time that we get to see Alpha with this team on LAN. But if you tell me that you're not afraid of Vitality on LAN, they're the 5th seed coming in for Europe, but they've still got a player who's been to every World Championship since Season 2. And since Season 3, that certain player, KDOP, has been in every grand final. Not just attending, but been in the very deciding game, like to win the whole thing. Fairy Peak's pretty damn good too. So I look at Vitality and I go, you know, this, I don't know what happened here, but you're talking a top 8 and a 2nd place finish. Give them on LAN, we'll see what happens. There's a lot of weird things that are going to happen with that. So I look at Europe and I've got some massive question marks about how things are going to go. I really do. Obviously, there's always the conversation of if you've never played on LAN before, how are you going to perform? And I'll talk about that in a future video. Make sure you guys hit subscribe so you don't miss out on that. But there's the conversation I think that needs to be had about what this LAN means that none others do. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Let's jump over to OCE, and these ones are pretty dang solidified. These are very telling, and I like seeing this from a region. While you have other teams that are consistently all the way down to 6th, everybody 3, 4, 5, 6, the worst they place is top 8. That's super consistent in OCE, right? OCE consistently, all the teams that are at the top are staying at the top, which I absolutely love to see out of the region because in the past, it was 2 that were stupid dominant and nobody stood a chance. Now, Ground Zero did start off a little bit sluggish. They took 2nd place, 2 in a row, 2 Renegades. CJ is shooting well again. There's a lot of accuracy things that are happening that are coming together. Fever is the new hot commodity. He's probably one of the best players, if not the best player in OCE right now. Mechanical stud. They have a little bit of a hiccup, and that's how they give up that 1st place spot. But ultimately, it is within striking range. It's been very, very exciting. The big thing to pay attention to, Ground Zero has been to every grand final. Ground Zero, who was as dominant as BDS last year, is doing the exact same thing. That's scary for people. Some concerns about Ground Zero on LAN, a player in particular. As for Renegades, CJ for the first time going back in 3 years. It's pretty exciting stuff, but you look at the depth of their region, it's not too far off. The scary thing, though, is these teams are going to go to LAN and guarantee themselves double the points of the worst place spot in a regional. That's a big deal. If Ground Zero Renegades can upset one or two teams, it's going to create a bigger gap here, and it's going to be really tough for these teams to catch up. These teams have to find a way to knock these guys out of the grand finals. The only time it has happened is for Kidden when they did it against Renegades here. So you got to find a way to knock them out of top 8 because it looks like they're guaranteed to be top 8 every single time. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. So pretty exciting stuff for OCE. If we take a look at South America, this one had a lot of fun results to it. This one came down to the wire. I think tiebreakers, there was like 3 teams in the running, technically 4 that could play upset. In their final stuff, they had to do all of their matches on a Saturday instead of over 2 days. I'm curious if that had any change to stuff, but they did because of exams. A lot of young kids, a lot of school stuff going on. This one, very similar as well, I think, to sometimes over in Europe. I do think SAM teams can be really hot and cold based upon what we've seen. I'm trying to find trends in some of these results. And again, these don't tell the full story. I do recommend, if you can, go take a look at the VODs. There's some really exciting stuff. We've done replay analysis on some of these teams and based upon results, but Furia and Era. Noble also was close in the running, but got upset in that, I think it was semifinal or quarterfinal match. I think it was the semifinal match to Furia, who ended up not only winning that, but then going on to complete the whole thing. So unfortunate for Noble. Noble's been super consistent, top 4 every time with a top 2. You've seen Furia win 2 as well as a top 8. And then you've seen Era win 1, top 4, top 8. So Sam just seems all over the place. Teams all the way up to here. Even still top 4. You've got a couple that miss out. So I think Sam is wide open. I think that's got to be the exciting thing for South America. If you're an Endgame, if you're Novus AV, if you're one of these teams in the top 5, your chances are still within striking range. There's a lot of opportunities for teams to get in there. So that stuff is quite exciting. And makes me really interested to see how they're going to do seeding, because we still don't know about that. I'll make sure to cover that in a video when it does come out. Over to Middle East, this is pretty dominant. It's Sandrock Gaming. This song doesn't really line up with the feeling. Maybe for the rest of the teams, it's a little somber, but Sandrock Gaming has done nothing but get W's. Sandrock has shown with TRK that they can bounce back and they can look great. Massive sadness for O'Khalid, as he is not allowed to go. He's got, to my knowledge, he's got exams on the Monday, the day after. So with quarantine and stuff like that, he wouldn't be able to go. So he's not able to. But for Sandrock Gaming to literally just win every single event is what they need. They need to come out as strong as possible. Senzo is going to be playing at the major for them. But there's a lot of thought, I guess, between these teams then. The fact that they're tied, dead even. Sandrock is the clear favorite. I think we all kind of assumed that based on the exposure they've gotten, but there is some depth between, I would say, down to like 6. I know most of these teams, but as soon as you start getting into like 7, 8 and stuff like that, I don't know off the top of my head. So there is a lot of opportunity, I think, for some teams to play upset, but the difficult part is you got to knock Sandrock off their pedestal, which no one's been able to do yet. So they're only going to come back stronger. Sandrock's going to go and play international competition, get some reps, understand some of the nuances from the LAN buff, as we refer to it. Everybody who goes to LAN usually comes back more motivated, more energized. They're excited. They've got new strategies. They've been exposed to different play styles, things that work, don't work. They apply that to their region and they just clap people even harder. So that basically started with Chiefs back in like season 4. So it'll be interesting to see what Sandrock does at LAN. Over to Asia Pacific North. We're going to do Asia Pacific North and South kind of in one, because they are playing in a qualifier, and we'll take a look at the qualifier results here in just a sec. Tokyo Verde. This is the Realize team. Realize, Tenhao, and God, why can't I think of you guys' full roster? Realize, Tenhao, and Maru. Absolute dominance as well. This was also regarded as the best team by far in this region. Still, shoutouts to Doomsy for keeping it somewhat competitive. Shoutouts to Hilltop Picnic. But Ganders had a really good result and has stayed pretty stable. Top 4 and top 2. 8, 4, and 2. So the fact that consistency is being rewarded, that small dip here, that makes for a very exciting region to try to fight. But similar regards to the Middle East, man. You got teams that are competing close. I mean, literally identical. 200, 200, 250, 200, 200, 250. Someone's got to find a way to knock them off the pedestal. Ganders will disband. You hate to see that, man. Realize in chat. Obviously, shout out to Realize. Congrats again to going to Sweden, man. I already said my crazy formalities and best of lucks and all that kind of stuff earlier when you popped in, but that sucks, man. You got a top 2 team and they're disbanding. I really hope that's not the case. Did you really beat them that much, man, to where they just completely said, heck it? That's really depressing. I will say the cool thing about Tokyo Verde is Realize, if you guys, the people watching, don't know, Realize did play in DreamHack Montreal back in 2018 and got some LAN experience. He was there with Conra 1NE, and I forget your guys' third at the time. The ability to get that international exposure, I'm curious if that's going to help. It's been 3 years, almost 4. So whether that will help or not, I don't know. It's been a long time. That's just a massive question in general for a lot of teams because it's been 2 years. But the ability to provide some experience to that, at the end of the day, it's a learning experience, I think. I think these teams are going to try to put up their best foot forward, but it's going to be tough. But it's not over. I think the crazy thing about Asia Pacific North and South, as we take a look at South, Pulse, which used to be the ALK team, ALKE, they got picked up by Pulse, also extremely dominant in their region. The difference, though, is Azure has been able to get to the grand finals twice, while the other team only did it once, but then they faltered top 8. 1NE, stupid, consistent top 4. It's a good place to be, but still, you have to push ahead. So I don't know what it is about 1NE and the team they run into. Are they just always on the same side of the bracket as Pulse, and that's why they've been getting smacked? I hope not for their sake, because that's just a bad draw, but it's tough, man. It's tough. You got to find a way to play upset. The separation and the fact that they have enough teams, I think, for Asia Pacific North and South, due to ping reasons and all that kind of stuff too, because they classify so many different teams within them. The fact that they have this kind of depth and this many teams signing up and playing it, I think, is incredible. But what really happens is after they figure out their teams, they then come together. So they take the top 2 from both Verde and Ganders versus Pulse and Azure. So you got your top 2 and your top 2, and they put them in a bracket. And Tokyo Verde built different, man. This is a series that I think people should go watch. We're probably going to watch this one on stream, even though it is a default here. The upper bracket, I think. So they go up against teams from the other region, which I think is really cool. 6-1, 2-0, 3-2. So it does look Azure with the experience is starting to get a little bit better over time. How do they do in lowers? 3-2, 1-2. At least they don't get shut out. So they do end up showing up a little bit better. As for Pulse, which, wow, that's a lot of overtime. Holy. So it is looking based upon results, because Pulse plays the same team. 1 goal game, 2 goal game, 1 goal game, 3 goal game. Dare I say that Asia Pacific North is the better region? Asia Pacific North better than Asia Pacific South. Dare I say, based on the representation of the teams, which is kind of weird to think about because Ganders apparently is disbanding. That's wild to me. You're so close to making it, and then you just... And then Tokyo Verde, 2-1, 3-0, 4-2, 1-2 with an OT, and then 3-2. God, that game must have been really exciting. That must have been insane for the upper bracket. So that gives them a 1-game advantage. Just because they're not doing the double elimination. They're doing 1-game advantage instead. Pulse drops down. Really impressive for Pulse to drop back down immediately after a loss too and take a victory. Because these are played immediately after each other. 6:15, and then immediately after 45 minutes, they play the other. So Pulse immediately has to bounce back and drop from lowers. And then they come back, and yes, they get swept, but those games are close. 4-3, 2-1, 1-0. Those are all 1-goal games. That 4-0 does not tell the story of how well Pulse played against Tokyo Verde. Your chat Realize. I mean, how were the series against Pulse? Do you think they played a really good game? Obviously, I know you do freestyle stuff for Pulse, Realize, but if you had to equate to the actual competitive team, because they picked up, I mean, people should know these names if you watch Asia Pacific in any way. Like, they're very talented players. Those are all won within the last minute. So every single one of these in the last minute of gameplay, unless you count overtime, are won. That's pretty insane. We'll probably watch this on stream chat next. Really aggressive. What do you think their biggest flaw was? So a lot of clutch moments. So again, it sounds like in these regions then, and this is just my interpretation of it, and I could be totally off base, but a lot of times it feels like in these regions, when it comes down to close matches, it comes down to the individual effort. It comes to that one player stepping up, that one player that's going to be the difference maker for their team. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've seen Realize play. Boy hits some shots. So jokes aside, even though Minimum's saying it, Flaw was playing against Realize, it is kind of the case. You have a little bit of veteran experience, a little bit of talent that comes with it, and the ability to play upset by being that individual effort. I mean, you've seen that so many times where the best player on the field wants the ball. Give me the rock so I can go and make the difference. Give me the ball so I can have it in my possession. So when the final seconds are chipping away, I can make that play because with the pressure and everything else, which brings us back here. We don't know the seeding. I don't know who's going to play who. I don't know how these are going to go, but representation wise, and I'll do a video on this dedicated. I think if I have to pick my top teams, I'll probably do a tier list based upon where I think teams are going to go. I think my favorites to win the whole thing: Energy, G2, Envy, Endpoint, Vitality, Dignitas, with my dark horse being Renegades. Those are the teams that I think have the best chance to win, and I think Renegades might be able to upset some of these teams. Yeah, gotta put away the shots though. Renegades, if you don't put away shots like I've seen you do in the past, I want to be confident in Sandrock, but because Senzo is playing instead, I don't know how to do it. BDS not favorite. I've got some concerns about BDS. OC might be tough opponents for NAU. I think people underrate them. I think people underrate the Sandrocks, or not the Sandrocks, the Ground Zeros, the Renegades. I mean, even Furia, even Era. I mean, there's some good teams showing up, man. There's some really solid teams that are gonna be coming in and playing. Complexity is in a dark horse? No, I don't think so. I think Complexity is gonna be there, and they're gonna try to do some exciting things, but compared to their other counterparts, I just don't see it personally. I've got some concerns though for BDS. I really do. Yeah, maybe Jan comes in and just shows how much of a goat he really is. But I don't think there's one match that I see, like no matter who's playing in it, that I'm upset about. I think that's the best part about this, and probably how we want to wrap it up, chat. I look at all those teams as a fan of Rocket League. Obviously, I'm biased towards it. I don't care who plays, just because it's the first time we get international competition in so long. But genuinely looking at all those matchups, no matter who plays who, there's just so many things that we have yet to know how things are going to play out. How is this play style going to work against this play style? Are we going to see a hierarchy that comes into play from different regions? Are we going to see maybe this certain play style we haven't seen before? Are they going to settle into, like, how are these rookies going to... There's so many different factors. If you guys want to hear that more in detail about some of the things that I am concerned about, or things that I've kind of got on my mind of, like, seeing how things are going to develop, let me know either in the comments down below. People in chat, if you guys want to hear about my what ifs for the first LAN event in 2 years, let me know, because I've got a lot of thoughts brewing about storylines and this and that, and things that I've got kind of just like on the top of my head about stuff I want to know when it comes to how LAN is going to go. The questions that I'm going to be asking for LAN, and am looking forward to the answers based upon the results. So with that said, if you guys do have any questions, comments, concerns, as always, let me know in the comments down below. Links to everything we're talking about, all of the bracket stuff, the rankings, everything are in the description along with my socials if you want to go give those a love and a follow. And while you're down there, if you guys enjoy the content, give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and wait. Apparently Mad Matt said to wait. What are the dates of the LAN? December 8th to the 12th. December 8th to the 12th at YouTube. Make sure, if you guys haven't already, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.